The Employment Regulations 2010 only applies to all employees in Malaysia earning less than 1,500 ringgit Malaysian per month. What about those who work part-time and earn below 3,000 ringgit Malaysia per month, such as those categorized in the bottom 40 or B40 group?
The regulations is cover every employees that defined under the Employment Act. So the definition of employee under the Employment Act is any person who enter into a contract of service with an employer, and under our Schedule 1 is stated that not 1,005. Any employee who earn 2,000 and below will be covered under the Employment Act. Plus, between 2,000 and 5,000 also extended for them to make a complaint if they have problem with the employer through our labour court. So that extended power is widen up the coverage of the regulation until 5,000 ringgit. So, for the B40, it's covered under the regulation also. So, for the public to understand, to define a part-time employees, the employees must be offered by the employer a contract of service with the minimum, with the maximum working hours, normal working hours, not more than 70% of a normal working hours for normal employees. Usually, normal employees will work 8 hours a day. So that means a part-time employees, 70% working hours will be around 5.6 hours for per day they can work, or for them to entitle the benefit under the regulation. So it's different from a casual worker. Then who are the casual workers? The one that not covered under this regulation. Casual workers is the employee who work less than 30%. That means part-time workers must work at least 30% of the normal working hours, but not more than 70%. So this is the employees that cover under this regulation.
Generally, you see, being a labour consultant and then ingrained in labour laws, we have to go back to refer legislation and tell the right terms, the right words. So now I have to start, when you talk about part-time employment and then you talk about contract workers, we have to go back to look at what is employment. Now in employment, there are only two types of contract that you can have. One is called the contract of service. The other is called contract for services. Now, people don't understand that you are free to get labor. Labor and employment are not the same. I can get labor services, but doesn't mean he is an employee. So, what is the difference between an employee and a labor services? An employee is somebody under a contract of service. And this is where the Employment Act defines employee who has a contract to serve the employer, and there's an agreement under which they serve, and the Employment Act governs all the regulations. And they also define who is covered under the Act, which talks about general labor and below. And then, what about the employers? Is there a freedom for them? Yes, we have a freedom for you to manage those outside the ambit of the Employment Act. So I don't want to go into too technical an issue, but basically to tell the layman, what you need to know there is that when you go to employment, you must find out whether you're covered by the Employment Act. If you're covered by the Employment Act, then the employer has to give you all the benefits enshrined in the Employment Act. If you join the company and you find that you're not in the ambit of the Employment Act, which is governed by a certain scale of salary, etc., then the management has the right to tell you the terms, and it's up to you to agree whether you want to accept the terms or not.
A written contract should be provided to workers employed in an organization or a company should their services be needed for longer than 1 month. Part-time and fixed-time contracts should be in the form of a black and white agreement. All these employment contracts or agreements should be signed and received by the employee before the start of the employment period. Even though oral agreements are acceptable for employment of less than 1 month, part-time workers are advised to request for the offer in writing.
Fixed-term contract is part of a regular employment. There is a relationship of employer-employee, but your term is not long-term. A regular employee who joins the company will go on working until retirement at the age of 60. A fixed term contract is only for a fixed term, maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year. Okay? Now, since 2012, a regulation has come to limit this fixed term contract. The main purpose is the authorities do not want employers to abuse services under fixed term contract, putting them on a perpetual contract. Okay? And there's a lot of disadvantage if you put them on a perpetual contract. Mainly, number one is if I'm age 40 and you take me on employment and put me on a fixed term contract, and every 2 years they extend me 2 years, and for 10 years I'm working with you, I don't give increments, I don't get any recognition, I don't get bank loan, nothing can be done. So the Retirement Age Act has come into place where the fixed term contract is now limited. If your salary is below 20,000, the employer can only keep you for 2 years. Any extension above 2 years, you have a right to go and complain to the Ministry of Labour Department to say that why they are terminating me. If the salary offered is more than 20,000, then under the fixed term contract, the employee can be renewed up to 5 years.